help businesses at all levels. You have questions, we'll work to give you answers. You have problems, we will work to give you solutions. You need contracts, you've been sued, you need to sue. You talk to us first, and here's the best thing. If we can't do it, we know who can. And so we love to be a resource to our friends, our clients, our referral partners to be able to send, if it's not something we do, to them. We are like the center of a wheel. You've got something very specific, we can figure out and find a specialist to help you. My law firm and I, we have a mission, and it's deeply personal to me, which is part of the reason we started doing this. You know, we tell everybody we want businesses and business owners here in South Florida to thrive. And you know why? Well, I'm a native, and you all, you know, probably spend more time online than I do. And I will tell you that you could probably tell me way more than I could tell you about how much hate Miami gets just for being Miami. It's shallow, it's weak, everybody's fake, we're not serious, we're not as well educated, we're not as good as everybody else. Everybody else is more important, makes more money. And I'm going to venture a guess that it probably bothers all of you as much as it bothers me, because I've got 30 years of experience that says that that's just not true. That's not to say there aren't people who are like that, but that's also true of a lot of places. Miami certainly has a reputation for having an outsized number of those people. But that's just not the way I see the way businesses work here and how they operate. And so I don't think it's fair that they get treated like that. So it's a bit of my own psychotic mission that I want other people to understand and take you all as seriously as I do. You know, Miami's now the 8th largest city in America. We bypassed Boston last year. And we have everything. And you, as business owners and operators, have everything to gain from that growth. So that's the reason I'm here today. I want to share a little bit about what the basics 101 are, irrespective of what you do, who you do it for, how big or how small what you do is or your business is. And I'll start off with something we all probably have in common. I bet everybody on here, you know, heard, oh, we're going to have an attorney, and everybody, you know, immediately thought of like 2 lawyer jokes. And everybody, I think we can agree, probably hates lawyers. Anybody see Jurassic Park? You know, who's the first guy to get killed? You know, the lawyer sitting on a toilet in a shed. Like Michael Crichton hated lawyers. That was very intentionally inserted into the movie. And why is that? Well, it's because we're viewed as being expensive and dishonest, and people come to us when after the problem arises. And that's not the best way to use what we do. You know, in full disclosure, when you come to me when there's a problem, I tell you all the doom and gloom. Oh, all these terrible things have happened. Let me tell you how you could have avoided it. Let me tell you how we're going to fix it. And then I'm going to tell you all these other things that are going to go on. And then after you relive this misery over and over and over again, you get to pay me for it. So we're very well aware that, you know, we're not really necessarily the people you're going to invite to all your parties. But why then should you care about what I have to say? Because believe it or not, there is a way that doing what I do can not only prevent trouble, but it can help make you money. If you do things, and granted, everybody's a little bit different, but if you do certain things, you can increase the likelihood that you will get paid in your business, that you will get paid on time. You can bring predictability to how things operate. And I'm sure everybody has seen, you know, having predictability reduces anxiety and reduces stress. And we all know that burnout is the #1 thing that's driving people out of business. It's not money these days. And it will also help protect and grow your brand, your images, your relationships, and your bank accounts. Believe it or not, there is a way to employ lawyers to do all of those things, not just to sue people, not just to take your money when you've been sued. And I should also point out sort of the downside. Now I'm going to be the doom and gloom guy for a couple of seconds. If you don't give the law its due consideration in doing what you do, you could be faced with things like suits for defamation, intellectual property infringement claims, invasion of privacy claims, image ownership disputes, contract violations, collection problems. We all love having to chase people for money. Um, a violation of something you may or not even have heard of, the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act, which every year seems to expand its scope, violations of FTC rules, workers' compensation issues, and personal liability when things go wrong in your business if you're not protected by a company. And you say, my God, Kai, what a parade of horribles. That sounds awful. But hey, I guess I don't really need to pay attention because this has never happened to me. It doesn't have to happen to you many times. It only has to happen to you once. Oh, something like a workers' compensation or a tax issue, the thing people are least afraid of, oh, it's the state of Florida. What's going to happen? The IRS will negotiate with you if you end up in a tax situation. The state of Florida will not. They will come and shut you down. They will garnish your accounts. They will take your money and they will stand in line and be first to be paid every single time. And this is exactly why I go out and I yell from the mountaintops to every business owner, it's cheaper to prevent a problem you don't have than to solve one you do. I'm supposed to stick to my slides, so I'm trying not to go too far afield here. So let's start at the beginning. Whether you know it or not, you are a business. In talking to creators and influencers, and I know not everybody here does that, but there are a number who do. And we have done this, Valeria has been nice enough to come to our previous workshops where we've asked people, who left 9-to-5 jobs to do this? Who left a 9-to-5 job working for someone else to pursue something for themselves? And everybody's listened to that criticism. Oh, well, it must be nice. You don't have a job. This is very easy. This is perceived as some sort of this is how you avoid having to do real work. And what people completely fail to appreciate in that is you went from being a worker to being an entire business. When you do this, you become the owner, the operator, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, the CMO, the CTO, the bookkeeper, the receptionist, the scheduler, very often the talent, the executive producer, the art department, the sales department, the marketing department, the editing department, HR, the director of marketing, and the legal department, as well as the receptionist. You do every job. You went from wearing one hat to 20. And your 9-to-5 became 9-to-9. And that's a lot of responsibility. You shouldn't be doing everything. I used to do all the jobs in my own firm. It now takes 6 people to do what I used to do by myself. And so whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, you are an entire business. And you owe it to yourself to treat what you do like a proper business, because a business is a machine and it serves your why. It makes you money. And understand, and I bet everybody, well, not everybody, but I bet a lot of people on this call know that your why is not to make money. Your why is to do something else. The money is the byproduct of what your why is. And if you can feed that, you can help more people. And when you can help more people and you feed your why, guess what? The happy byproduct of that is that your business is more profitable and you make more money. But that also means that you have to do certain things. Why? Well, because the IRS treats you like a business. Anybody who's had to file a tax return in the last couple of years. The FTC treats you like a business, Federal Trade Commission. The legal system will hold you to the same standards being a full-blown business. And the state of Florida will certainly treat you like one. But there are definite benefits to doing it this way. There's the limitation of personal liability. There are absolute tax benefits, which I'm not going to be able to tell you too much about. That's really better saved for an accountant, but I can walk you through some of that. And there's a lot of business growth potential by doing that, by running what you're doing as a proper business. So great. Now I've laid a long, lengthy, windy, wordy predicate for you. So the question is, where do you start? The first thing you do is you get a business entity. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you do it for. I don't care if anybody else works with you or for you or in your business. The first thing you need is a limited liability company or a corporation. There's a bunch of other business forms, but the vast majority of people who I work with use one of these 2 business entities. You want this for two principal reasons. If you have a limited liability company and something goes wrong in your business, the limited liability company is on the hook, not you. The limited liability company's money and assets are at stake, not yours. The limited liability company has to go to court and is the named defendant. Its credit gets impacted, not yours. The benefit from a financial standpoint is it's what's called a pass-through entity for taxes if you're a small business. If you then go and get what's called an S Corp election, and I'll be happy to answer questions when I'm done yapping at you here for a little bit, and you can ask me all about this. But an S Corp election is a tax treatment whereby money flows through the company to you. And that way it only gets taxed once. And you get this whole wonderful set of things you can deduct and write off and expense and exempt from taxes that you can't get as a person. And so you can end up technically paying yourself more by saving yourself money on the tax liability side. So, obviously you're going to want to talk to somebody about how you do it, but I encourage everybody, always have a business entity. Even if it's just you, even if you say, I do $20,000 a year in business, $10,000 a year in business, do it, keep it separate. The number of benefits and protections you can give yourself are way too long to talk about in a single conversation. Now, if you want to up your game from there, you could file for what's called a fictitious name registration. A fictitious name is the name you want to do business as and under. You may not like the name of your company. There's a company out there called Doctors Associates LLC. That used to be Doctors Associates Inc. Everybody in this room knows who they are. That's Subway. If you've ever bought a 6-inch or a 12-inch sandwich from Subway, you have made a purchase from Doctors Associates Inc. That is a very common way to use a proper business name that's not terribly sexy, but then use the brand you want to sell as something else. You may not want to brand yourself as something Inc. or something LLC or something Corp, which you're required to do as a matter of law. You can come up with a cooler name and use that instead. For instance, my law firm is actually Kai Jacobs, PA. I don't want people picking up the phone and always wanting to talk to me. I want them to understand that we're a law firm. We're a number of people. We operate in a business, where we do, who we do it for. South Florida Business Law Group. In a name that doesn't have Inc. or LLC or PA attached to it, you know who we are and what we do. And I encourage everybody who wants to operate that way, get yourself a fictitious name. It comes with benefits too. It also has a protection. Nobody else is allowed to use that name. It's registered with the state of Florida. It's yours for 5 years. It belongs to you, and you have the right to enforce it. Then there's the next step up from that. You can really go big and decide, I'm going to get a trademark. If you decide that my business has grown to the point that, my brand name or some aspect of my business, my logo or my word, you've got some magic word you like to use, you can trademark that. And it's not a complicated procedure, but boy, oh boy, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office does not move fast. And they will find things to challenge, and it takes a while and so forth. But that really comes with a huge number of benefits to anybody. If you really make money off of a particular image or your name, spend a couple $1,000s and get this trademarked. Because if somebody goes and uses it or uses something that sounds like it or can be derivatively assumed as being from, and there's a lot of variations on that, you have unbelievable legal rights to put a stop to it, and very quickly. Unlike people who don't have it properly registered. There are automatic penalties associated with the misuse of somebody else's trademark, and some people do not mess around with it. For those of you who are champagne drinkers, you know that outside of the region of Champagne in France, you're not allowed to use that word. Now, that's under French law, but here in the US, they've got that trademarked. If you are in California and you call your sparkling wine champagne, they will ruthlessly pursue you, and they don't settle. You pay, you pay. Um, Budweiser used to be called the champagne of beers. That became a problem. And it's the same thing with any other brand. Coca-Cola, they're pretty ruthless in how they pursue things. You get a cease and desist letter. It's an unbelievably secure, enforceable, excellent way to protect a brand name and to ensure that nobody else profits off of all of the good hard work that you've done and put in. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So now that you know what you need to be you, and you need to have a business entity that surrounds you and keeps you protected and shielded from the outside world and is this great sponge to suck up money and give you the most of it. Perfect. So what comes next? Okay, well, now we can, cue the groans. If you thought what I was talking about before was, uninteresting, wait till we get to contracts. For me, this is terribly exciting stuff because I understand the value. I know what happens when they go right, and I know what happens when they go wrong. But irrespective of what kind of business you are, irrespective of what you do, who you do it for, I have learned in my time that there are certain basic agreements every business needs, particularly people who are remotely associated with anything in creation or the creative fields. And the first two we're going to talk about are somewhat related. The first is the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, and the confidentiality agreement. The NDA is for, you have an idea. You want to create something that you think is going to make a lot of money. A campaign, a product, a service, an event, and you want to float it to some other people. See if they might be interested. Maybe they want to help out. Maybe they want to participate. Maybe you want sponsors. But you're worried, well, if I tell them and they really love it, what if they take off with it? What if they get to market before I do? That's what the NDA is for. It prevents anybody from talking about or revealing anything you don't want revealed about whatever it is you want to sell or talk to them about. You get to decide what it's going to be. I got this great idea, but I'm gonna talk to Zoila here about it. And but I got to be sure that Zoila is not going to tell Valeria, who's not going to tell Bailey, because if they get to it, they're much better at marketing and sales than I am, and so I'm out of luck. But I have this idea, and so I would have Zoila sign an NDA that you can't talk about whatever we talked about. And you say, great, Kai, big deal. So I signed a piece of paper. What happens if I go do it? Well, I'm not going to bore you with how a lot of contracts and sausage making gets worked, but they're very enforceable very quickly. And they tend to stipulate a very large sum of money has to be paid if you violate it. I don't have to prove how badly you hurt me. I just have to prove you did it. And boom, that's it. I don't know if any of you have been paying attention to what's been going on in the news and you've been seeing what some of these other celebrities who they're like, how did anybody not know all these terrible things were going on? And you've heard or read about what some of these NDAs were about. The most recent one I saw, whose was it? It was literally what they call the rule against perpetuities. It was the person who signed its entire life. It lasted their entire life, plus 20 years into the life of any of their children. And the penalty for violating it was into the millions of dollars. So everybody kept a tight lid on it. Tom Cruise, I know, has an insane one. I think, you know what, that might actually be Tom Cruise's, but don't quote me. I know when Beyonce made Lemonade, she had unbelievably strict NDAs because she did not want that out there. You, believe it or not, get to do exactly the same thing. That same right is in your lap as it is in theirs. It is no more theirs because they are celebrities than it is yours. And you notice lots of things, don't make it to market. You don't hear about it because these NDAs are in place. And it leaves us to speculate and wonder what's going on. It's exactly the same thing for you. You should absolutely take advantage of these when you have ideas and you feel like you want to sort of float them around, but you're not really sure what's going to happen. The second one is the confidentiality agreement. That's similar, but that's really for people you're going to work with on a regular basis. And you're going to hand over things as you work with them. So Zoila and Valeria, for instance, may have a confidentiality agreement within their business for people who come to work with them. Hey, look, we're going to tell you what our special secret sauce is for how we do this. This is how we decide pricing. This is how we do things. This is our secret list of customers. This is how we got them. You don't want that out on the street because you believe it has a commercial advantage to somebody else in their hands. So you want to be sure that you keep that under wraps, but the people who work with you need to have access to it. And that's what you put these in place for. And they're enforceable exactly the same way that NDAs are. I am stunned when I find out that businesses do not have these things in place and they do things like sales or and they have pricing involved. If you have people who understand what you sell things for, what your markup is, and who your providers are, and you get an employee who gets mad at you on a Wednesday and walks out on Thursday, and they take that with you, you could be out of business in 30 days. All they got to do is undercut you by 5% and you're done. I've watched it happen. I've litigated it. And people without these protections in place, I've watched their businesses go down. You owe it to yourself to put one of these and get every employee who works for you to sign off on one of these things. Or, by the way, contractors who work with you on a regular basis. Anybody who's in the creative arts and you have like a photographer you work with regularly, it is always worth it to have something like this in place. And again, everybody's circumstances are going to be a little bit different. And this is why, we customize these things for clients and say, okay, well, who do you work with and what do you do and who needs it and who doesn't and who's going to have access and who's not, and who are you at risk of being harmed with these things. So those are the first two I think you really need. Now, for those of you in the creative realm and you work with photographers, or you are an influencer, or you are in marketing and you use photos on your social feeds or your internet websites or whatever it is you're working with, I am always surprised to find how many of the people in that field do not obtain image releases from the people who appear in the photos. And people say, what, you mean the people in the background? Yes, I mean the people in the background. I mean the people who you photograph out in public at an event, who may not know that they're in it, or even the people who do know that they're in it. If they don't sign an image release, says, I am releasing all rights I have to the use of my likeness in your work, Mr. or Miss Creator. You get to use this for free forever, and whatever you earn from it is yours. If you don't do that, they will always and forever have the right to demand that you take it down. Because if you don't, you could be subject to what's called an invasion of privacy claim. You don't want that. You don't want to know where it goes. You don't want to know what it costs. You don't want to know how long it takes to sort out. But if you get sued for that and you don't do it, I'm just going to tell you, get prepared to go to the bank and write a check. You're either going to write it to a lawyer, or you're going to write it to them, or you're going to write it to both. This is just easier to do. And it protects you sometimes in ways that people haven't quite thought through. Suppose you get a wonderful, post together for one of your social media feeds, and it, you've got this great image and there's some people in it, and you don't have one of these things in place, and it takes off. 3 months later, somebody from the image says, hey, dear Mr. and Miss Creator, I see that on October 16th, you posted this image. So great. I want my cut of the money because I see it's doing really well. What? Okay. Or, I don't like that post. I don't like the way my hair looks in it. Get rid of it. I didn't give you my authorization to use my private image. Guess what? All of a sudden, this post that was making you money has to come down. I work with a bunch of photographers who always use these. I always encourage people who post anything anywhere to get these for people they put in. It will, because it gives you a forever protection. Yeah, they may agree to it today, but they could change their mind tomorrow. And so you want to know that if I take this image and I use this image, it's mine forever. And if it happens to take off and I want to put it on a billboard, or I want to sell it to someone else, that's my right to do. And I get the money from it. That is exactly what you want. Okay, what do we got next, Bailey?
I want to give an example really fast
Yeah.
on the image release. It happens with creators. I'm in a group with a lot of influencers, and everyone asks, hey, the brand wants to use my image for a paid advertising. So you can charge if it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that you can also put the amount of time, right, on that image release that you want them to use your image. So that could be one example. A second one, for example, I went to an event last Saturday, and in the event, they made me sign a paper saying that they could use my image. They're going to be taking pictures, videos. This is going to be posted in social media, and I need to agree if I want to be in the event, which I thought was really interesting. And at the same time, it is what it is. Like, you accept or you don't accept, right? But always you need to be protected for these kind of things. No.
So Valeria, to your point, I am a longstanding member of a law firm management company. We're a bunch of law firm owners and we all get together. Every time we go to a conference, we are all required to sign a new image release because they video it and they use it in their promotional materials. And so, you can imagine how much fun 400 lawyers in a room are. And so you can bet that everything is documented, but that is exactly what we do every single time. So your point is dead on. Okay. Service agreements. This is another one of those, whatever you do and whoever you do it for, and everyone's might be different, but you want one of these. What we came to discover, not just in working with influencers, but people in all markets, in all industries, at all sizes, were living in this world of not having their own terms of service. They were either living off of other people's terms of service, meaning that, well, so-and-so in company A is running a great business, but I have to do what she wants me to do. And then I work with business C over here, and they seem pretty good, but they have different terms of service. So I'm going to get paid by company A this way. I'm going to get paid by company C this way. And I don't really know what happens if it doesn't work out. That is not a good way to do things. And I hear this all the time. Well, I don't need anything fancy. That seems very formal. I work on a handshake. Or what happened to the days when people wrote deals on napkins? That never happened. Let me just be perfectly clear. The idea of some big transaction, being handled on the back of a napkin. I heard this, some client once tried to tell me that he sold a car dealership like that. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there, because you may have met with your buyer and you said, I will sell this to you for X million dollars. But then somebody had to transfer title to all the cars. Somebody had to transfer title to the land. Somebody had to document when the taxes got cut off at your end and they started paying for them. Somebody had to transfer title to all of the other assets in the business. Oh, and there was a lease back on the land. Well, somebody had to transfer that. So this idea that, somebody sold something is absolutely not true. On top of that, lots of you are also probably stuck in this world where there's some DMs and some text messages and some WhatsApp messages and some emails. And you're like, I'm not really sure when I'm getting paid or how, because it got moved around and I got a couple messages while I was on vacation. Believe it or not, that's a contract. You put all those things together, that can be what they call an integrated instrument. It's super messy to prove. It's terrible. And you really had no control over how it came together. And you better hope that it kind of works out in your favor. There's no reason for you to have to live like that. Why should the way you work with any one business be different than the way you work with any other? It's your business. You should be able to lay out the basic terms of service. And there's certain things you want to know. I want to know exactly, what am I doing for you? Or what are you doing for me? How long is that going to go on? When am I getting paid? What if, and what if, and what if something goes wrong? Where is that dispute going to be handled? That sounds like it's very doom and gloom and could never happen. But, Valeria had to listen to me make this example the last time. If your business does business in different counties or different states, and you have to go hunt people down for money. Well, they don't come to you. You have to go to them. The law in this country is you chase people for money where they live, not where you live. But you can change that. Nope. Everything happens right here in my neighborhood. And you can also say, you know, I still don't like lawyers. Kai's not that nice. I don't particularly care for him, and I really don't want to work with any other lawyers either. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm really going to try to limit my exposure to these horrible people. So you could put into your terms of service, I don't want to litigate. If we have a problem, you have to go to mediation, a forced settlement conference with me. That's it. Then if that doesn't work out, then, maybe we'll go hire lawyers. You get to control all of that. And what if you don't get paid on time? Would you like to collect interest on the payments due to you? I bet you would. How about late fees? Would you like to collect late fees? I bet you'd like to collect late fees. Wouldn't that be great? You can deal with all of those things. You can put all of that in there. But then there comes the really important stuff. Those are things people call boilerplate. People go, I don't care about boilerplate. Boilerplate will save your life. But let's talk about the important things. Who owns the work you do? What if you're in the creative fields and you, in fact, make something? I don't care. Videos, images, social media posts, artwork, campaigns. Who owns it when you're done? Forever? For 6 months? You get to decide. And what if you have to work with contractors? What if you work with, say, photographers, and they're going to go shoot? Do you get to decide how many images they're going to shoot? Do you get to decide who gets to edit them finally? And who owns them in the end? And if you post them and make money, do you have to share the profits of that? You want to know that now. You don't want to fight about that afterwards. Make it clear. Have terms of service, and you get to decide what they are and make them the same. Create a generic form that you will use every single time, so that dealing with person A is exactly like dealing with person B, C, D, and E. Now, that's not to say people won't come back and ask for some modifications, and that's okay. But you've got a baseline that in every deal, I'm going to get paid on this day, this way, and if they don't pay, it's this much interest. There's this much in late fees going to accumulate. If I got to chase them, they're going to come here. I also know that when I'm done, they only get to keep this stuff for 30 days. Perfect. Perfect. Every one of you is going to be a little bit different, so you're going to want something a little different, but that's what you want. And then there's the horror story of, well, what happens if I come to your business and I get hurt? Who's responsible for that? What if I come to your business and something goes wrong? What if I come to your business, I'm asked to shoot some content and I put it up and somebody's trademarked images in it and they sue me? Do I have to pay for that? I don't want to pay for that. You should pay for that. You get to put all that in there. And then guess what? You never have to worry about it ever again. It's always going to be there to protect you. And that's exactly what you want. Now, you're going to update it every few years, but that's exactly what you want to move forward in the world. Okay. That is effectively what we've got for most of our agreements. And the only one I would still throw out at you is the independent contractor agreement for those of you who work with independent contractors. I was like, what's an independent contractor? It's the people you don't want to use as employees. These are the people you come into contact with that you don't hire, you don't fire. You work with an outside, IT specialist. You work with, I keep coming back to photographers because that's just where my head is today. You work with photographers, you work with videographers, you work with musical editors, anybody that you go to the outside to on a fairly regular basis to help your business work. Why do you care about this? Well, they send me a, I-9 at the end of the year. Because if they really are a contractor, you're going to have to send them a 1099 every January. But you also want to be clear in working with people like that, who is responsible for what? What exactly are you going to do? And understand that when I pay you, that's all you, Mr. or Ms. Contractor, are responsible for the taxes on that money. I'm not withholding money. I don't owe you benefits. You are not an employee. You are not entitled to anything beyond this money. And if I say I'm done with you, I have the right to terminate, and you can't go claim unemployment. You also have no other rights against me. And the work you do for me, I'm just going to make, is owned by me. What you produce is mine. What you produce while you are working in my ambit and my little universe here belongs to me forever. And if it makes me money, you don't get anything beyond what lives in this independent contractor agreement. These are the best ways to protect yourself and to define who does what. Knowing everybody's roles, responsibilities, and expectations walking in is what I can tell you from 3 decades of doing this is the best way to prevent trouble going forward. It's not sexy. It's not attractive. It sounds like it's a prenuptial agreement. That's because it's a prenuptial agreement. Everybody's great. Everybody's happy. But these are the things we need to address today, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And if it goes sideways in the future and I didn't do this, I don't want to have to pick up the phone and start calling lawyers and filing lawsuits and doing all this terrible stuff, because I got my own life to pay for. I don't need to be paying for my attorneys. It really is a great way to manage expectations. And by the way, put more money in your pocket and ensure that it stays there. Okay. Is that all my slides, Bailey? I got everything, right? There you go. Okay, so if you got questions, if you want to know more, we've got a QR code there that you can schedule some time to talk to us. We're happy to sort of figure out what sort of assistance, if any, you might want or need. We're happy to meet with you. These are, initial consultations, so we don't charge for that. We're just sort of trying to gauge what people are looking for and people might want to know more about and assistance with. I also know that if you come to us through this event, there is a pricing preference and a scheduling preference for you. We've got certain packages of documents and information that I'd be happy to talk to you about once we had you scheduled, but I don't want to bore everybody with some stuff that they may not want or need. So I don't know what happens next. Do we do questions? I know there's a quiz. What's the order here? What am I doing, Deliria?
Yes, so I have a couple questions that, sorry, not question. I have the questionnaire, the quiz, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We have 5 minutes for a question.
I think
5, go. Somebody hit me.
I added the link to book a consultation appointment with Kai in the chat, and I know there's a couple questions in the chat right now.
Great. Can somebody just tell me what they are?
Sure.
Hit me.
Valeria or Christine, do you want to ask your question or do you want us to ask for you? She has an S Corp, and for the tax benefit, does it have the same protection as an LLC?
So, yes, an LLC and a corporation are the actual state of Florida business entities. The S Corp is not really a thing. It's a tax election that you file under the IRS code. A corporation can be an S Corp, an LLC can be an S Corp. And so you can use both or either format, and you can make either one of them an S Corp. By the way, other entities too. My business is a PA, a professional association. I'm not allowed to be a limited liability company or a corporation because I am not allowed to create a shield between myself and you. I'm your fiduciary. You hire me, you trust me. I know all your deep, dark secrets. I'm never allowed to repeat them. I screw that up. You get to sue Kai, not Kai Jacobs, PA. That's the one downside of doing what I do. But I'm still allowed to be an S Corp. I'm allowed to take advantage of the tax benefits that come with that. Same thing for PLLCs, Isabel. You get to do the same thing. That question I saw.
And do you work with LLCs and S Corps only, or do you also work with nonprofits?
So nonprofits fall under a very specific subchapter of the IRS code. I know attorneys who specialize in not-for-profit work, and I'd be happy to make that referral. I don't typically dig in because there are usually some funding issues and some very specific tax rules that those folks are best at addressing.
Great.
Before anyone else has any other questions, please, if you can scan the QR code, we're gonna play a little quiz, and the winners are gonna get the giveaways at the end of the quiz. It's gonna be 10 questions. You can scan the QR code, or you can go to www.kahoot.it.
I want to know what's the prize, Valeria?
There are 10 things, and let me see, I have it here. There's a couple of local companies, local Miami companies, and then there's some US wide. So the number one winner is gonna get a free consultation or a strategy session with Ty Jacobs, aka you. 2 hours of professional portrait photography at Mindspace, 2 tickets for a mixology class in Miami, $50 Amazon gift card, $100 gift card for Mocha Jewelry, 8-day pass at Mindspace in Miami, 45 minutes social media consultation by Nomad, 3-class package for Yoga Plus, and a beach puff by Gaia Beach Store. So we have 10.
Wow.
We have 10 giveaways for 10 winners. So yeah, there's a couple things. I think I had like a couple questions the last time, but I think I'll go to the service agreement. So for example, if us as an agency, if we have a client, can we, because I remember when I used to work for big agencies, like some big agencies own everything. So they cannot log the client, so the client cannot leave to get
Right.
other. So is that legal here in the US? Because that was in South America, or it just depends on whoever signs it?
So you're saying that under the service agreement, the client is not allowed to leave?
No, the agency owns everything from the period of that service. Like owns the images, and the client, if the client leaves, they cannot take anything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can create that. You can say, I'm generating all this, but it's mine, and I'm going to use it for promotional material even after you leave.
Interesting. Okay, well, we have,
Probably not the best way to do business, but it can be done. You
well,
know, like, listen, there's a lot of things that happen in some of these agreements, and I always think of the Chris Rock joke, which is you can drive a car with your feet if you want to, but that doesn't make it a good idea.
True. Okay, we have 16 people. There's 39 people in this call, so I'm gonna wait just a couple more minutes. I don't know if anyone else has another question for Guy. You're having like free time with a lawyer, so please make sure you use it.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to ask specifically about just the things I was going over. I mean, look, that's my 101 for what I consider to be, valuable for every business owner, irrespective of your business industry. But if you've got some other burning question that you want to put out there, I'm happy to do what I can to answer it.
What kind of agreements should partnerships have?
When you say partnerships, now I'm
If it's
going
two people-
to be a lawyer. What do you mean by partnership?
2 people that own a business together, what kind of contracts should they have in place?
So if you have, when you say a partnership, are we talking about like 2 50% owners?
Yeah, or how would you recommend they handle that? What kind of things do they need to put in place?
So if you ever have more than one owner in a business, and I understand lots of people view themselves as co-equal participants, and that's great. 50-50 business ownerships are super tricky. That is literally a marriage. And when it breaks up like a marriage. I have a lot of war stories about partners who duked it out because their business was, in shambles, and they didn't like each other anymore, and they fought over everything. So in a limited liability company, you want an operating agreement. This is how we're going to do stuff. and we're going to agree to this while everything is good. And if we don't want to do business with each other, this is how it's going to end. And now that's what you got. And this is who's going to buy who, and unless they don't want to. And then we're going to do this, and then this is going to happen. And the other thing's going to happen this way. And it's very, people are like, oh, you always get out of that. Well, you really can't. You could try to fight it for a while, but in the end, it really is the best thing to do. So we very much encourage multi-owner businesses, especially 50-50 splits, to get an operating agreement in place. And in a corporation, it's an appropriate shareholders agreement, with clear directives to the board of directors as to what they will be doing versus what the officers will be doing.
Nice. And one more question that somebody asked, is it easy to switch from an LLC to an S Corp? How long does it take?
Why? Yes, Bailey Ramos, who has that situation going on hand.
I actually didn't write it in the chat though. That's funny. Somebody else really did.
So you can convert from one to the other. It's actually called articles of conversion, and they are filed with the Florida Secretary of State. And some people will switch from one to the other. I actually have a client who is an LLC, and he is switching his company to a corporation because he wants to create multi-levels of investors. And you can't do that in an LLC. In an LLC, everybody's the same. In a corporation, you can have different level of stock ownership. So he is literally converting so he can take on investors.
Okay, perfect. We are starting the
Quiz time.
game. So are you guys ready to win some fun giveaways? So justice will be served at the end. So the way it works is like you will have to answer in your phone. And if the quickest you do it, you have more chances to get more points. So the first question it is, how do lawyers help business owners? Increase payment likelihood and timeless, provide a strong foundation for growth, avoid conflicts, and protect brand, and all of the above. All the yes, that was correct. All the above. I'm gonna go next. So Shannon is the one that is number one. So you are gonna have probably the free session with Guy if you keep getting that score. Number two is, what is one risk influencers face without legal protection? Losing followers, lower engagement rates, defamation, or poor content quality? Nice. I think everyone pay attention. What is the game then? Okay. Sure. I'm not sure if you can. Oh yeah, here it is. I'm gonna send it to you, Christine. Next. Shannon keeps being on number one, and then number two, B, number three, Kylie, number four, Skylar, number five, Nyla. So the third question is, why is it important to treat yourself as a business? Number one, to gain more followers, to enhance social media presence, to limit personal liability, or to increase content views. I think this is easy. Yay! Okay, good. Let's go to the next one. Skylar, you're number one.
Skylar's in the lead now.
Yes. And Kylie as well, and Nyla. Yeah, the word can change from one moment to another. What is the significance of starting with a business entity like an LLC or a corporation? It ensures you can hire more employees. It provides protection against personal liability. It requires less paperwork. I think it might be that one. It guarantees higher profits. Okay, so I think everyone is paying attention, was paying attention. Skylar, number one. Shannon is coming back.
Skylar's got fast hands.
Yes, that's the thing. Why is having a trademark important? It makes your logo look more professional. It provides brand protection. It allows for international expansion, and it increases your social media following. I think it's a green one for sure. Nice, yeah. I think that the next ones are getting a little bit more tricky. Number 6. Which contract protects ideas and confidential information? An NDA, an employment agreement, a service agreement, and a licensing agreement. An NDA. Woo! Cindy, I see you. Okay, what is the purpose of an image release? To define terms of payment, to clarify roles and responsibility, to secure rights to use non-famous people's images, and to protect against personal liability. Oh, that was a little tricky. I see Barbie. Next one. What should a service agreement define? I think that was like 5 minutes ago, so you girls have to have it. Marketing strategies, company mission, brand details, terms of payment. Yay.
Bang.
Kylie. Everyone is fighting for the strategy session. Why is legal documentation important for businesses? To ensure a strong foundation, to improve the office aesthetics, to increase social media engagement, on to make your business look more professional. Definitely number one. B is leading. What type of business entity can provide protection against personal liability? An LLC, a partnership, a sole proprietorship, or a corporate such. Okay, now we have the winners. Shannon is number 3. Skylar number 2. And number 1. B. Who's B?
Bianca, right? Bianca Falcon.
Ah, I was like,
Congrats.
yay! Amazing.
Great job.
Great job. So we're gonna send an email, and then the first 10 are gonna get the giveaways. It's gonna be on the same timeline as the post that we did on the giveaway. So the biggest one was Sky, a strategy session. Then I think we have a social media review with Nomad, and all of those details are going to be sent via email. But congrats to everyone, and thank you so much for staying until the end. This was very fun. Thank you so much, Kai, for all
Sure.
and all the information. And thank you so much, Bailey, as well from Ardor. And yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you, and stay tuned for our next workshop as well.
Yes.
And-
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you. Have a
all
great
right, someone's gonna forward me Bianca's information so we can get her set up.
Yes. And I'm gonna send an email with the link that you are giving for people
Okay.
presentation. I'm just gonna send an email following up the presentation.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Listen, I thank everybody for your attention. It was really great. It was a nice turnout. I thank all of you. I hope everybody has a great rest of the summer. And of course, if anybody needs me, I hope you know where to find me.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.